Hi, everyone. Hello, Helen. Welcome to this Be2Lead conversation today. Thank you for being here. It's really, really an honor to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for having me.
It is always such an inspiring time, the one we spend together. Ellen and I, we know each other. And I came across Helen thanks to another amazing woman that will be part of this conversation as well. And Helen was introduced to me as a keynote speaker, and then I met her and I knew her as a leadership mentor, as such a young female leader, and I simply love her. And so I thought that her story, she has an amazing story, and I thought that inviting you, Helen, here to have this conversation and share your amazing story would have been such a gift for everybody that will listen. So again, thank you. Thank you for being here. And let me immediately start with asking you, how was the path that took you here like? Where would you start, given that you have such an incredible experience?
Yes, first of all, Barbara, thank you for making this series of showcasing just the stories of women, because they're all so unique and we can just support one another by inspiring and sharing. So thank you for doing this and for everybody who's listening and sharing too. Let's spread the word. Yes, so
Let's do that.
I think, as everybody, what I do today is the result of what I did before. So, in my work today that I have created myself 2 years ago, I'm an entrepreneur who has become a keynote speaker and a leadership mentor. I accompany women and men over 3 months who are in leadership positions and mostly work in alpha dominated leadership work cultures. And I accompany them so that they change what is normal in these high level positions, because I think most of us who work in a corporate environment, as soon as they access these power positions, they realize we have to be in a certain way in order to be accepted, in order to be taken seriously. And here I come to my own story. I haven't always been a leadership mentor. I have a story of having been a young woman myself in these leadership positions.
You're still a young woman.
Thank you. And I was working, and that was my dream, for the European institutions in Brussels and Berlin. And very young already, I was a spokesperson. I was a head of communication, leading teams. And I was also becoming a speechwriter for the president of the European Commission at 35 years old. And there I could observe how leaders act in their positions, how men and women are also different leaders with completely different qualities, everybody individually.
Yeah.
But my story is also a story of finding myself in there. And when I was 33, so that was 5 years ago, I had a burnout. I was in a management position already, leading a team and representing the European Commission in Germany, in the Berlin office. And I was simply exhausted and had to take a break of 8 months. And that has, and let's openly talk about mental health here as well,
Yeah.
often has many, many reasons, from your personal life, from your life situations, the working conditions. But in my case, I believe the reason why I was also very exhausted is that I had to come to work every day wearing a mask, so to say, a professional mask, try to come across, although I was a young woman, as older, as less feminine, as tough and strong and assertive and courageous. Although in reality, I'm a very sensitive soul. I'm quite funny. And I think I had to hide that and leave it at home. And I believe that many, many leaders in their positions have to do that and play roles, which sometimes can also be good. It can protect us. But I have come to the conclusion when I came back to my job I don't have the energy to do this anymore. And I literally physically, when I came
Mm.
back, the day I came back to work after 8 months, I really realized I simply, I have to be myself, because it would cost me too much energy to make it up, to play a role again. What if I'm just me? No longer the professional Helen, no longer the private Helen, but just Helen, and into my authentic leadership. And that is, to me, a leadership in which no one can touch us.
Yeah.
Because when we can be ourselves, then there is nothing that can happen to you, in my opinion, because I felt, and that's what I want to share, a confidence that emerged from this permission that I gave myself to be authentic. And that's also why I created my first project when I was an entrepreneur, called Let's Just Be Imperfect, Ladies. Feminine strengths, our empathy, our vulnerability, our sensitivity, because those are superpowers when we use them as our authentic leadership quality.
So that is an amazing journey that you have described. And if other women find themselves in a similar situation where they realize that they are wearing masks and they are not fully showing up for who they are, what was that? What are some suggestions, or how did you then turn that around? What did you start changing? What did you start doing differently? And did anybody support you? What were the resources or the people, the mentor that were there for you? I don't know if you wanted to talk about it later, but
let's talk about it now.
Let's talk about it now.
I want to be very honest. I only learned all of these things because I had my life crisis and my breakdown. And often this is a wake-up call to who we really are and what we really need and what is really our full potential. And so everything that I may say now may sound very wise, but I'm sharing it as somebody who has gone through this crisis, and I don't wish that for anybody. And that's why it's great to share. But I also want to be honest, it's hard to get there just through yourself. So again, how great it is that we can share these stories. Because here's what I did when I came back after my burnout, and it helps me until today. By the way, it was also what helped me to overcome depression and self-doubt. It is because I'm a very kind person, or to put it less mildly, a people pleaser. I would always try to be perfect, and I have come to the conclusion for myself, being perfectionist and trying to overperform all the time, overgrowing expectations, is in reality a sign of insecurity. I could see that in myself. I was always kind of overperforming to be 100% sure that I would be respected and that I would be taken seriously and that I would get positive approval. And here is how I overcame that. And it's a process. I'm, of course, still working further and further. And I'm sharing with my mentees in our mentorings how to get there too, is to get to a place where, before we ask that approval from anybody else and hope that our bosses and everybody else around us will approve us, to give that approval to ourselves first. To not make us so dependent on, will they like me? What will they say? Oh, I hope I'm wearing the right thing today. Something must be wrong with me. Look at how they looked at me. All of this self-dialogue was going through my head. And when I was entering a meeting room as the only young woman often, and the advice I give today to women in that position is, even before the meeting, what is your intention for the meeting? Who do you want to be in that meeting? What do you really want to achieve? And to celebrate yourself after the meeting, no matter what, with an intention of self-kindness, so that no matter how the meeting goes, no matter what looks and comments you may get, and these are very subtle often, very much in the invisible, that's why it's so hard to pin them down, but we often feel intimidated to constantly be kind to yourself in this inner dialogue, that we often have, and to answer those sometimes self-critic words that we say to ourselves with a soft language like, it's okay, you're just trying, you can get there, all right. To be soft and kind to yourself, and that is giving you approval to yourself independently of what other people may think, and that is a matter of training.
And these are very powerful advice. And as you said, it is a matter of training, and it is something that now you are mentoring people over. I know, right? So it is very precious. I am just wondering, and I think it will be very powerful for people who are listening, and young leaders, or people that young women that aspire to become leaders. When it happened that you realized, oh, I'm entering a meeting and it will be very tough and it will be very difficult because look, there are these people there and they are very alpha male, or sometimes female, even if probably less, right? So how did you at first, and maybe the first time, okay, you realized that you need to do something. How did you approach that meeting the first time? If I can take you back to a first time, what did happen, so that we can unpack a little bit the experience, and maybe some other women are in this experience right now. So I think it will be useful to learn and see that you went through that. So if you took us back there.
Yes. So the first thing is the preparation, the mental preparation of the meeting. And that doesn't have to take hours. It is more a small moment to take a deep breath and to remember, first of all, because we sometimes also think, oh God, I'm not an expert actually. What will they say if I can't answer all the questions? I was a spokesperson, for example, for fisheries policy from one day to the next. And I knew sometimes I may have to say, I don't know to a certain question, which can also be very professional if you really don't know. And I'm going to check out for you. The first thing is to remember, I am only a contributor. I don't have to be a guru. And I'm saying that because so often, especially as women, we doubt our own contribution because we're being looked at perhaps in a different way, or we're being cut, or somebody else repeats the same thing again that we just said. To remember, your contribution is valuable. The way you have it, the way you studied it, the experience that you bring in, and especially the perspective that you may bring in as a woman, as a young leader, as a person from a different background. So what if, that always helps me to think that, what if somebody needs to hear it from me? I was so often doubting myself because I thought I'm only 30 and I'm in this leadership position, and I tried to be like my predecessor who was 50.
Yeah.
And sometimes I reminded myself of, what if there's a reason that I'm in this job, and that a 30-year-old young woman should contribute to what the challenges are here. In my case, it was communication and strategic communication. What if I can bring in my young creativity, my thinking out of the box, and also my perspective as a woman?
And allow me to intersect you there, what you have just said, because one of the purpose of these conversations and having this conversation, the B2Lead conversation, is really to show that our stories matter. And so when you say recognize that we are a contributor, we don't need to be a guru, we can bring our own, is really the tiny little piece that is for us to bring, and that it does matter. So thank you for pointing that out. It is extremely powerful.
I will give you an example, because we sometimes always feel we are alone. In the beginning, in my leadership position there, we were organizing a panel discussion, a conference, and I was asked, who would you recommend to speak on that panel discussion? And I was recommending a young lady who was very active in politics. And I said to my boss, because they had already proposed a couple of senior, very powerful figures that were, by coincidence, all men. And I proposed that young lady who I had spotted, and I felt she has a powerful thing to say with her perspective. And the first reaction that I got was rolling eyes, kind of, she's making the woman comment. And I could see in the looks, she's only saying that because she is a young woman. And I think somebody even said this. Yeah, Helen, see. And I answered, well, the other people you presented are all old men because you are all old men. And I remember that in the first instance, I got the rolling eyes. But so perhaps they had to hear it from me. And a couple of years later, when we were doing the same process, it had already become normal that even my bosses thought, we need to think of also bringing in a woman or a person from a different ethnic background than just white male. And so sometimes we are the first ones to say something, but that doesn't mean we are alone. Somebody may have to hear it from us with our accent, with our hair, with our clothing style. Even if we may feel in that moment, oh my God, I'm sure this was wrong. Look at how they look at us. In those moments, I want to tell all women and also men who are in this situation, you are not alone. You are a leader because you are shaping here what is normal in these workspaces and in the work culture.
And in what you are saying, I allow me to pinpoint another very important lessons that you are bringing up. That is that when we get this rolling eye, or when we feel like we are in the wrong place, and the temptation would be to take it personal. Don't be discouraged and keep going. And don't take it personal. It's the process of bringing something new and that has been hidden maybe to light. That's the process. And so even if we have the rolling eyes, as you just mentioned in your example, we keep going and we stand there, wanting to make our tiny contribution or big contribution, whatever that might be. But don't take it personal, and just know that the rolling eyes are part of the journey for a little while, the transition.
Yeah, and I want to come back to perhaps a second tip when you said what to do when you come into these meeting rooms. And again, for years, I was the young woman doubting herself, coming to the meeting room extremely well prepared, confident and shining. And then I got intimidated and felt small because of one comment or one look. Mm-hmm. And I only realized that when I did the self-work and the self-compassion work and all the personal growth work on myself, that I am probably, and I have worked, especially in the German context, in a very, let's say, old school male environment, in a power environment, very conservative. And I have to say today, as my own observer, I was an alien to them. I think the reason why I felt intimidated often by these subtle moments is that in reality, I was intimidating them. For decades and centuries, men in power positions, let's spell it out, have been among themselves. I'm not blaming the situation, but the work culture, the language, the habits of treating one another and of, how a meeting and power structures work have been established. And now, even if on paper, or now even if women come now to the meeting rooms as chairpersons or presidents, on paper, we have more equality and there are now rights for women, but the work culture has remained roughly the same. It is very slow to change. And I got to realize if somebody just looks down at me or stares at my clothing or thinks in the beginning that I must be the secretary or the intern and not the code discussant or lead a negotiator for them and their counterpart, I'm going to say something very
go ahead.
I start to have compassion that it is very hard for those men to know how to treat me. I look different, I speak differently, I come in with completely different strengths. And I'm going to say this out loud here, these are not soft skills. If we come in with empathy, compassion, empowerment, leadership, these are often called soft skills. And I believe these are classic feminine powers that men and women can bring to the table. And very often the way I am when I'm just authentic as a woman can be intimidating to a man who may have for this whole career worked in a male-only environment. And so when we often hear, oh, we need to empower the women in our workplace so that they also access finally the leadership positions and the glass ceiling, I say that we also need to support men, those leaders who are already there above the glass ceiling, and mostly they are still men, to be leaders also in diverse management situation with other leaders who are completely different from them. That is also a skill. And we cannot just expect from men. Now, for example, this summer, the European Union has just decided on new women quotas for executive boards, 40%. That can sound to a man who also wants to access career positions like, oh, now I just have to step aside and I have to, wait. And so we also need to support, and I'm saying that because I mean that because only together with men and women will this change and this huge transition be possible. We cannot just say now we focus all efforts on women to change and to become tougher and stronger. We need to change the work culture. I say that to all women who may still feel that something is wrong with them. No, you are just entering a work culture that has not been designed for you or been designed
but this is so powerful, Ellen, and it is so beautiful to hear you say that, because I can see the innovation, I can hear the innovation, and I can see how the future is going to be different. Maybe, and we could say the future of empowerment is actually collaborative. We need to really have men and women empowering each other. We women need to learn a lot still how to empower ourselves and other women, and how to relate to men in a different way as empowered women, and vice versa, as you just mentioned. So really, I love the fact that, and that's another reason why we are having this conversation here, to make visible these transitions and these shifts that needs to happen. And I love what you said before, not only before the high ceiling, it's after as well, right? Where people are already in the boardrooms, those percentage of women who are there and the men who are there, really the transformation needs to happen beyond the ceiling as well. So that's very powerful. And related to that, therefore, here it is another question, Helene, for you. Mentorship and role models, right? I think that it is something that I love. I think role models and mentors are amazing, not because you want to emulate them, but because for me, they make you see what is possible and maybe what you do not dare to think possible for yourself.
Yes.
So just in your experience, your story, have you encountered mentors, role models, or have you knocked at doors to have access to people that you consider role models or mentored? How was your experience towards that? And what would you suggest to other women and men that are embarking in this empowerment journey? What would you recommend, suggest to do?
Thank you so much for coming up with the mentor idea, because I absolutely believe that we can only achieve what we can imagine for ourselves. We often stay in our comfort zones because it's comfy and it's difficult to imagine anything else. And so sometimes, as you say, we need to see that somebody else has done something to feel the permission. Oh, it's outrageous to do this. In my case, to quit your government career at a very high position. I have done it because I have seen somebody else do it, to be absolutely open with you. And this person, it was a man, gave me implicitly the permission, Helen, it's okay to do it too. So again, coming back to, if you are the first person to say certain things in your workplace or to be a certain leader, you cannot imagine how many people you will inspire. And you will give the relief and the permission that it is also okay to be vulnerable or to be yourself or to take certain steps. I have heard when I was leaving my government career from many of you, oh my God, I also wanted to do this for such a long time, but I can't for several reasons. And although I was so scared myself to take this step. And my suggestion for everybody about mentors is, first of all, I had amazing female role models in the institution and the government institution I work in that I looked up with, and I thought, oh my God, they have found their own style of leadership. Had often to be bilingual in the way that they learned the language of power that you needed to learn in order to succeed, but they also were trusting their own intuition and who they can be as leaders. So they were kind of, calibrating both, and I was so inspired by them. They are still in power positions today, and I also got extremely inspired by many men. I think it's mostly about personality, who we get inspired by. But talking as somebody who has changed her career into a completely different field. I was a government official for life, and now I'm a self-employed entrepreneur. In order to dare that, I also feel we need to actively seek mentors or role models. And in my case, I was just reading their books, okay? Or I was watching their videos on YouTube. You don't have to personally meet them, but surround yourself in your life with those who have already achieved what you want to achieve, and ask those people, if you can, or read up on them, on their advice, not people who have not yet achieved that. So to give you an example, I was working for the president of the European Commission, a dream and a very privileged position. If I had asked my direct colleagues, do you think I should quit my career and do an own thing? They would have probably said, are you crazy? Why would anybody do that? But I found the courage to take this step because I had already in the years previous surrounded myself with the books and the webinars and also the people in I was going into a different space myself, or a different room, so to say, with entrepreneurs, so that I felt normal about making the step and taking the shift. And here I want to, one more tip perhaps that helped me is to define your own definition of what success means. Because on paper, I was extremely successful in the positions that I had acquired. But I just want to be open and honest. Sometimes I still didn't feel fulfilled. I felt perhaps there's even more. There's another heart burning in myself. I need to explore it. And there's nothing more powerful than exploring our full potential. And in my inner success compass, I wasn't successful yet because I hadn't fulfilled my potential. And even if our society rewards us for the kind of external signs of success, CV, promotion, title, pay, I want to encourage and also give everybody the permission that you only decide what success is, not your parents and your colleagues and what other people have said or done, but you can find your own mentors and in the place where you want to go. And that will give you the courage to become like them or to take big life decisions in that direction.
And also linked to what you are just saying, and embedded in what you have just said, Helene, is the fact that sometimes we don't realize that perhaps even in the ways, maybe not everybody, but many of us have been brought up, security, a sense of security is something that has always led us. And when you say, I decided to live a high position and secure position where you were working before, and you give priority to the fact that you did not feel completely fulfilled, what happens there is the value and the purpose that is moving you is actually your own and not the one that was given you by the way you were brought up, even maybe without exploring it, right? Women, a lot of us, we are just born in a tradition and we don't explore things. And what you're saying here is I want to have the courage to go beyond this, to choose what I want to stand for, to choose who I am and what I want to express about myself. And here is how I do it. I have decided to quit. I become an entrepreneur because my voice can be heard fully in this position for now. Who knows where we are going, right? But having the courage to distinguish and distinguish myself from the tradition I come from my culture, from my family culture. I hear this in your words as well.
Yes, and that's why we also have to have compassion with, for example, our parents or how we grew up. They grew up in a completely different economic or world situation where
Yeah.
the full potential was to earn a secure living. I mean, that was, a completely different way of choosing a job. And at the moment, we may live in a economic or political situation in our lives that gives us the privilege to feel more creative and to really go for what is possible for us. At least I see those
Absolutely.
possibilities for many of us. And
Absolutely.
somebody said to me, that helped me a lot. It was one of my coaches who said, Helen, you have a responsibility to follow your calling. If you
Yeah.
don't do that, you're not doing justice to your own kind of, power and energy you have, and perhaps why you are here. And
Absolutely.
so that's why I often say, let's follow our why, or let's find out about our why,
Yeah.
rather than just following what other people may deem as successful.
Yeah.
And to use the jobs that we may have as a tool to grow rather than the other way around. And that is,
Yeah.
to me, the essence of your slogan, by the way, Barbara, be to lead. That we
Yeah.
first decide, who do I want to become as a person? Who do I want to be? And to
Absolutely.
become a leader from within. And the external success will show anyway. It will come. It's a natural consequence of, deciding for yourself. I am trusting my inner compass. And even if may not be understandable yet for all my friends and family who may worry or ask what this is, I trust and I can feel it, and to, be it, so that before you can actually express it or show it, because that will lead you there.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the core, and that's why this conversation series it is called "Be to Lead." And linked to that, in fact, let's think about the younger generation. Let's even younger than university students. Let's go really kids. If you had a daughter, mm, and you wanted to really accompany her and inviting her on a journey of Be to Lead, what is the most precious drop of wisdom, if I may, that you would share with her? And if you had a boy, and if you had both, what would you share with both, so that as they grow, they have a chance to really be to lead?
Yes, it's such a powerful question, Barbara. And it reminded me of my goddaughter, because I had just been at her baptism very recently, and I had the privilege of telling her, even if she may not have been able to understand, what I wish for her. And so what it was to pursue her dreams, even if they may sound crazy to us adults, and to believe in her dreams and aspirations. Because so often, as perhaps younger children, we hear, oh, sounds nice, but you actually have to do a serious job, or go for something serious. Because I believe that there's always there's some essence in there about who we want to be, and to even if the young daughter would shake our universe as adults and make us scared or nervous about that, to keep believing in ourselves. Because I believe the role of the next generation is always to go further in their imagination and in what we find normal or acceptable. So to be crazy, and because there's nothing more powerful and important for your happiness and mental health, to talk very seriously, than to fulfill your own potential. And so the advice to a young woman, a young girl, and also a young boy would be: find out what you love and pursue it. Make sure you find a role in your life where you can do exactly that. Be in your zone of genius, where it feels like playing, because that will mean you're the best at it.
Yeah.
And because you especially asked also for a young boy, I mean, that goes for young girls and boys, is what I thought about was to say, your kindness is your power, and especially the kindness to yourself. I think this is really the basis of feeling worthy in our life, that we can give this credit to ourselves and believe in ourselves. And I have come to realize the kinder I am to myself, the kinder and more patient and softer I will also become to other people, and less judgmental and less hard. And this is such a beautiful way of being a powerful leader. Kindness.
Oh, that's amazing. That's definitely that is definitely counterintuitive, and you don't hear it that much in the alpha environment, in alpha dominated environment. So I really loved it. I really loved it. So we tell young boys and young girls to dare to believe in their crazy ideas, and dare to be innovative, even if everything around them and all around them don't agree. Explore. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to explore, right? And be kind to yourself and therefore to others. That's an amazing perspective and path to be on. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Helen, for sharing these. So this has been such an amazing conversation. I would continue, as we often do. We would continue to go ahead, and I would like, but I would like to share with people that are listening to you, because you are doing such a great, amazing work and mentorship. Where can they find you if they want to learn more about you, if they want to collaborate with you? And I tell you, Helene is incredible, so please check her out. Where can they find you, Helene?
Thank you so much, Barbara. First of all, everybody who feels inspired or just wants to get in touch, please just get in touch and let's have a conversation. Because I think it's so important to support one another and to follow one another. So I have a website, helenbanner.com, and there you will find that I am a speaker. And let me start this way. I'm a mentor for men and women who are in leadership position, whatever that means, right? No matter if you are, a manager or just an intern somewhere or doing your own thing. I think we're all leaders if we decide so. But those who want to find their own way, their own why, and who feel it's hard, the more I grow to actually find my authentic leadership. And so I support them over 3 months in my mentoring program. And that's very powerful because 3 months is a very good period to take a big step and to grow bit by bit into this person you want to become. And as I was doing my mentoring, Barbara, I realized that in the beginning, I thought this was my story, the story of being this young woman who enters a meeting room and feels small. And I have heard this story every woman was basically telling me the same story, and many men, by the way, too. And so as a former spokesperson in my former profession, I feel so inclined to say, I want to package that. I want to bring that on stage. This is such a powerful message that we so seldomly talk about. So that's why I am now also a speaker, and I speak in companies or at conferences as keynote speaker, as an idea changer, as a perspective changer on how we can change our work cultures for more diverse and open leadership. And I also give trainings more and more in companies to help individuals, but also decision makers to get there. So this is what I do at the moment. And you can find that on my website, helenbanner.com.
Beautiful. And I assume also here on LinkedIn, right? And YouTube and all the social media under your name. So thank you so very much, Helene. It's been such a pleasure. And who knows, we'll have a chance to have another conversation in the future. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Barbara, for inspiring so many women. You're doing an amazing work there. And thank you that I can be part of this.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody. See you soon again.